Hi, I'm Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin.
And I'm Arthur Nolan.
Welcome to Making It Work. On today's program, Didn't See It Coming. Arthur, what comes to mind when we talk about not seeing something?
Well, basically, it's like I'm not prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect this thing to happen, and usually that creates a problem for someone.
Definitely. Well, today we're blessed to have Miss Angela Harris of Flint, Michigan. Welcome to Making It Work.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
A lot of things have been happening in your life, but let's talk about you for a moment before we get to your testimony. Tell us about where you were raised and your educational background.
Oh, well, I was pretty much born in Cassopolis, Michigan, and I grew up in Flint. Lived there until 1996 and moved to Nashville with my mom. My parents had been divorced in 1990, so my sister and I moved with my mom to Nashville. My dad and his new wife moved to Atlanta, so we were back and forth between there. I think I was maybe 11. I went to live with my grandparents, and then later the next year I moved in with my dad and his wife, and this is very difficult. I didn't really have a good relationship with my stepmother. They ended up having 2 children, so I was blessed with 2 more sisters, and pretty much I was the oldest, so through everything that happened I just tried to keep myself together so I can be an example to them. Later we moved to Orlando, Florida, where I graduated from high school. But I got a call from my mom after I graduated. She wanted me to come to Nashville instead of going to college in Florida, where I originally kind of had wanted to go. I ended up not going to Tennessee State, where she wanted me to, but I did go to Nashville Tech, which is the college down the street. And my goal was to study ultimately forensic pathology. So I began there with biology, and I minored in bookkeeping. So I took my bookkeeping courses, ended up getting employed there. Then in Nashville, I went through the police academy, and I became employed as a 911 dispatcher, where I worked for the next couple of years. I bought my first home when I was 19 years old. I went to cosmetology school. Well, I did not finish. However, I did find employment as a manicurist, where I did nails for pretty much the whole time I did everything else.
That's how you made a living?
That's how I made a living. Anyway, in 2008, I met my husband through a mutual friend. The people from Detroit area tend to all be friends down there. So she was also from Detroit. She had breast cancer and had gotten had to get a biopsy on a lump that she found. And I agreed to take her. But I had some car trouble, so she said, no worries, you still want to go with me? That's fine, I'll just get us a ride. You know, I've got a friend that will take us. So I met her at my home, and he came to pick us up, and he had the most awful looking car. I did not even feel comfortable riding in it, and once I opened the door and got in, it was just so trashy and junky. There really wasn't anywhere for me to sit, so I immediately was not attracted to him at all. But when she introduced us, and from the moment I looked into his eyes, I was in love with him. I just, I don't know what it was.
You felt that chemistry.
I just felt that chemistry. So we spent the entire day together. He's very short, just not my type, not my type at all. But I just instantly knew that that was the person that I was going to marry.
Let me ask you this. You know, during this whole process, were you communicating while you were dating with your father or your mom about this young man that you had met? I
had just began to fix my relationship with my father, so we had just started recently communicating again, and I did share a little with him, but it was a lot that I kept to myself because I was kind of embarrassed because he wasn't the type of guy that I normally dated. So.
Okay, and what was the type of guy you normally dated?
A pretty boy. I like people that are very well groomed and neat and will do more for me than I had to do for them. So that was the norm for me.
And he was the opposite
He
of
was
that.
the exact opposite.
But something again caught your eye.
There was something. Yes,
Okay.
he just seemed to have such a sweet spirit. And he was a student at Tennessee State. So my mom, being a housing director there, was his dorm director for many years.
So while he was in school, you were in school.
Yes.
All right, so you were getting your, working towards your degree.
Yes.
He earned his degree.
Yes.
He earned his degree. What deviated you from getting your degree?
Well, our relationship moved pretty fast. We met in April, at the end of April, and by May.
What year was this?
This was 2008.
All right.
And by May, we just were totally in love with each other and totally engrossed in each other. And I could see that he had a need, and I just wanted to do whatever I had to do to help him. It was his last year of college, and I just thought it was very important for him to have whatever he needed to graduate.
So he had a need, and you made the decision that you was going to help him.
Yes.
Okay.
So you did that mean quitting school?
I did eventually quit school that year.
Did you all end up moving in together?
Not exactly. He had an apartment with roommates. He had a 3-bedroom apartment with 4 other guys. So, I just helped him with his share of the rent and his bills and gas and trying to keep that putt-putt going for him. So
you were dating. You were helping him pay his bills.
Yes, because I had 2 jobs. So, I had more income than him. He just had a part-time job at Macy's. So.
Well, how long did it take for you guys to make a decision that you wanted to be together for the rest of your lives?
Oh, that was within the first week.
Really?
I expressed my feelings to him the first day that we met. And my girlfriend was like, she's very blunt, that she's serious. That's what she means. And I probably shouldn't have said anything, but later on that evening, he told me, after he was getting ready to go home, he said, you know what, I could see myself waking up with you for the rest of my life. And that just let me know that that's something that we apparently were going to decide to pursue, to be with each other.
So how long did it take?
It was pretty much immediate. That day, he pretended to accidentally forget his earring at my house. And of course, I had to do my share of hard to get since I was so forward about my feelings. So I didn't give him my phone number, and he kept calling my girlfriend trying to get in touch with me, but she wouldn't give out my number. So after about a week, or maybe it was 2 weeks, I finally said, okay, go ahead and give him my number. He can call and tell him he can come by and pick up his earring. So eventually, I think in that second week, I did allow him to come back over. And ever since then, we were inseparable after that time.
How long before when you were married? What year did you get married?
We did not get married that year, but there was a kind of a roadblock. When he started, before he started back student teaching, like I said, we were very close and things were moving very fast. He was going to do his student teaching that fall, and we were trying to make a plan as to how, I would be able to help him do that and whether I would be enrolling in school again for that fall. But I wanted to take on some extra hours at work, so I said, well, once you graduate, then maybe we can talk about something. And he said, no, once I graduate in December, you're going immediately back to school, and I'm going to put you through school.
You had no reason to doubt him?
No reason to doubt it. I trusted him. So, and he seemed to be a man of God. He knew the Bible back and front. We prayed together.
Did you attend church together?
We did. We attended church together. He was a member of a very well-known church in Nashville, and their pastor is a very, very godly man. And I just trusted in that.
So now you're in Nashville, living. Okay,
yes,
then
we
what?
were in Nashville, and I think in late August, he started school. He began his student teaching at a couple of high school and a middle school there in Nashville. He's very excited about that. However, in September, we did have sex before we were married, and immediately before he finished, he said, I want you to have my baby, and bam, he made that decision for me. I don't condone abortion, but at that time, I just did not feel like it was a good decision for us. We needed to do damage control, and I just asked God, like, what do I do? I know I made a mistake. What do I do? And I didn't listen. I just pretty much was like, you know what? I don't want to ask God. I don't want to know what he thinks. I want to have an abortion. So I told Roger, like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the clinic, and I'm going to get this abortion, and we're going to finish our degrees, and we're going to just move on. And he was very angry. He said, no, I want this child. I said, no, I don't, because my parents were divorced. and their marriage did not work, and I don't want to have a separate household for my child. We're not married. What if this doesn't work? What if you decide to go on your own way, and then my child is in a single family home, single parent home like I was, and that was not good for me or my sisters. And so that was the last thing I wanted for my child, and I said, no, I'm not going to bring a child in the world to have this. And at that moment, he promised. He said, you know, I love you. I told you I would spend the rest of my life with you. Let's just go ahead and we will start planning our marriage and planning a wedding, and I will never leave your side. I will raise this child with you. We will do this together. I will be a father to her, and I will be a provider for you. And at that time, we decided to keep the baby. I began to get my prenatal care. And, you know, the whole wedding thing started getting pushed to the side, and, you know, he mentioned it less and less, and I was just wondering, like, is this still going to happen? And I'm still managing the bills for my home and the bills for his living, and I was getting kind of frustrated. So when I was thinking, my house had 4 bedrooms, so I chose a bedroom for my nursery, and I began to paint and, you know, try to prepare for the baby. It was early, but I had begun to be very excited about it. So I suggested to him, like, well, what's the timeline for this marriage? You know, what are we going to do? Because, you know, it would save a lot of money, and we could begin to save more money for the baby if we didn't have 2 households to take care of, 2 sets of bills. And he made a proposal to me, and not the proposal, but a proposal. He said that I got a job in Mississippi at Jackson State University, and I'd like us to go to Mississippi, and on this job I will be making good money and have benefits, and I don't want you to have to work. I want you to be able to be a mom, spend time with this baby, and then when the baby gets old enough, then I will put you back in school, and then we'll go from there. And so
you went to Mississippi.
I went to Mississippi.
You sold your house, packed up, and you went.
So we get there, and we moved in with my sister-in-law and her husband and 2 boys. And, you know, I began to care for them because we didn't pay them rent. So I began to be a nanny to my nephews.
Okay. And you're still not married?
We're still not married yet. There's something, always there's something that's putting it off. It's not time yet. You know, we don't have enough money for a wedding. I have a problem with anxiety, so I didn't really want to have a wedding anyway. So I was kind of pushing for, let's just go get our license and have a courthouse marriage, and let's just do that. But he wanted this big wedding, so I'm waiting, you know, okay, I'm going to wait. This is what he wants, I'm going to wait for this. So get down there, find out he did not have that job.
He didn't have a job?
No, he did not have a job.
Oh my, the plot thickens.
Yes, so I continue to care for the boys and run errands for my sister-in-law, cook and clean, take care of her house. And
so you were like the housekeeper?
In so many
nanny.
terms.
And
yes.
nanny.
If you want to use that term.
Yeah, well, transparency.
Yes, and I did continue to do that. But once the baby was born in April, my daughter was born on April 2nd of 2009. My grandparents retired and left Flint and moved to Arkansas. So that was only 3.5 hours away from Jackson, Mississippi, where we were staying. And so I had a conversation with them and asked them if, you know, my baby was 2 weeks old at the time. And I said, well, can you watch my baby for me and care for her so I can get a job for this month, just a temporary position to save for a deposit on an apartment for Roger and I and Robin, the baby. And they agreed.
So let me ask you, how long before you got moved out of your sister-in-law's house into your house and then married?
At the end of that month, we did move into our apartment, and that was in May of 2009.
And then when?
And we finally got our marriage certificates in August of 2009, and in December we finally had our wedding.
So you're living in Mississippi.
Mississippi, yes.
Okay, so now you're married, you have this child, you're in Mississippi. Then another child comes, and wait, and then the whammy comes.
Yes.
Okay, and then things begin to change.
Yes, but at that time there was so much tension between us. He was not a very good parent. He had some allegations of abuse made by neighbors when I wasn't home, and I didn't want to believe it, but ultimately I knew that the things that he was accused of had happened. That was in April. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you never saw this coming. I never, any of it. He was such a loving person in the beginning. I never thought that he could do anything to hurt our children. I definitely didn't think he would do anything to hurt me. So when I started getting wind of the allegations that were made against him, I became very, very angry. We began to have physical altercations, and this was in April of last year when everything started happening. There was no more income in the house, and we just became very overwhelmed with everything.
Then you found out that your husband has filed for divorce.
Yes, I actually, before all that happened, I found out that I was pregnant, and I didn't know until I was having a miscarriage on my bathroom floor.
With your third child?
With my third child. And I did not know because I had put it all behind me that back in April of that year, my husband had raped me.
How were you feeling at that time? Just how were you feeling? Making all these transitions in your life right now, everything hitting you at one time, and his decision not to be with you anymore.
At that point, when he moved out of the house and moved in with his sister and said, go figure it out, I wanted to die.
You just wanted to die?
The only reason that I continued to live was because I wanted to be a mother to my children.
You know, I just want to try to connect the pieces. I just want to know, where was God in all of this? You know, and why didn't you see it coming?
You know, growing up with my family being religious, a lot of people in my family, my grandparents, my maternal and paternal, my parents, they were all spiritual people, God-fearing people. And I think that my understanding of a relationship with God was just doing what you were told and doing what you had been taught. So in pursuing the path that eventually led to my marriage, I just was pregnant and I was in love with the person. So I said, well, you know, the Bible says that you shouldn't be having children and not be married. And I said, well, I want to marry this man. He says he want to marry me. So to correct the problem, we'll just go ahead and get married. And I thought that that would solve everything. So at the time, I was just acting on having a knowledge of God, but I didn't realize it. But I did not ever have a relationship with God.
And that's the key. A lot of people have a religion, but they don't have a relationship. You know, now going back to something, did you seek premarital counseling? Did you and your husband have counseling?
We did, however, he was not necessarily cooperative.
Okay. One of the things that I think about is that you went through all of the trials and the tribulations, but how did you get through? What was the motivation for you to continue to move forward with your life?
And what was the turning point that turned you around to put a smile back on your face?
Well, after all of this happened, I was filled with so much hate. I hated him. I was bitter. I was unhappy. And my children, I started to see that they were unhappy. And I was talking to my cousin, and she said, you can't be like this.
Okay.
She took me to church. I didn't know those people from Adam. I didn't want to go to that church, but I went. And the minister just started preaching on my story, my feelings, my anger, my hate, my bitterness, and how no matter what people had done, what we felt that they had done to us, we felt victimized. We are responsible for our behavior, and we still have to take responsibility for our part. And I began to see how I contributed to the things that had happened. I finally realized that, oh, I played a part in this, and a big part. I realized that instead of putting God first, just going through the motions, instead of having a relationship with him and saying, okay, God first, husband second, I made my husband my God. And I was manipulating my situation, giving to try to receive love from him, instead of doing what I need to do to receive love from God and to be satisfied with him first and to let him guide my life.
See, it's so important, and not to interrupt you, but it's so important as we see how God can turn us around when we don't see things coming, that we have to, first of all, admit that there's a problem, recognize there's a problem, admit the problem, and get some help to turn that problem around. And that's the only way that God can really save us and help us, if we're open to him turning us around. Because we can focus on being bitter and angry, and we're not moving anywhere.
Yes, you know, that's really important what you just said. We become stagnated.
Yeah.
I think what also is important is the children suffer from all of this. You know, here we go. We have another father that's out of the home, and you had to compensate. But one of the things that you indicated to me is that your support system is strong.
Very, very strong. And they didn't sugarcoat anything. They didn't baby me. They just said, well, you know what to do. You need to look to God. So that day in church, he spoke my story, and he said, I don't know who it is in this room today. I don't know this person. I don't know anything about her, but God has told me that she's in need. And he took up an offering, and he gave my number to, when after the service, he gave my number to everyone, all the women in the church, and everyone called. Everyone prayed for me specifically, for my children specifically, and that is how I began to see the power of God. For the first time, I experienced the Holy Spirit, and it was a feeling like no other, and I knew that he was there. So all the time that I had been relying on myself, I had not been relying on him because I did not know him. And so I called on his name, and every time something would happen, my son found out he had epilepsy in January. He was having seizures, grand mal seizures, back to back, in the ICU, back to back. Had nobody but my family, and I called on God even when nobody was there, and I realized he's here. I can feel him now.
Oh, yes.
Before I couldn't feel him. All I could feel was me.
And do you think for 1 minute that God took you through all of this to get in? God doesn't want us to be in sorrow.
No.
But sometimes God says, hello, hello. And then when we don't listen, he has to expose us to the point where there's nothing left for us but to look up and find God.
Well, I think what happens is he allows things to happen.
He allows things, but he gives us a choice.
Yes, he does.
He does. We have a choice.
Because along the way, we were given signs to indicate this is not for you, and because we took over, our will took over, we didn't allow those signs to make an impact on our lives.
So
we just kept moving forward.
They derail. So what is Angela doing now? All right, tell us what you're doing now.
I have learned a lot. I can say that when I said, and like the topic that we're discussing, didn't see it coming, I can no longer feign ignorance. I had said, God, why did you shock me with this? Oh, God, why would you put this on me? This just blindsided me. And I realized, like Mr. Arthur was saying, it did not. He gave me the signs. I just didn't see it. So there's no, I didn't see it coming. He always will show you. You just have to be open to listen. So now, things are still happening that are bad.
Yes,
this morning, my husband sent people to repossess my car, and they did. But you know what? I didn't shed one tear.
You did not.
I didn't cry one tear because I said, God, you got this. And I was not able to do that before. But had I been able to, maybe my marriage could have been saved. I was served with divorce papers last week. Went all the way to Mississippi to go to child support court. He had an attorney, served me that day, and only had to pay $167 a month for both of my children.
Wow.
But my family was there. And when I wanted to lose it, they said, where are you supposed to look? And I looked, and I could feel his hand of comfort on my shoulder.
You felt the power of God.
I felt it.
So now you just received your certificate.
Yes.
And now you got your certificate as a manicurist.
Yes, I'm a licensed manicurist in the state of Michigan.
Congratulations. Now you also have a desire to go back to school to get your degree. In what area?
Forensic pathology.
That is still your dream. And are you going to see it through?
I'm going to see it through. I put in my application to Wayne State, and although it seems impossible, no car, 2 babies, I know that what he's done for me so far, he has more than proven himself. And I know that he can do this.
But your car was repossessed, you know, and you had to go to court, and you only received $167 in child support. And, you know, where that could have knocked you down to your knees, your family was supportive again by keeping you focused and thinking about the Lord. That was really major.
That's it. And, you know, and when you don't, again, as we said, you don't see things coming because you don't look for the signs. God is always speaking to us. He's always communicating through his word. He sends people to minister to us, to speak to us, but it's up to us to receive what God is trying to get us to do. Turn around. Don't keep going down that road where it's going to be a disaster. And then you look up and you put yourself 2 years backwards. Well, Angela Harris has decided to go forward in her life. She's no longer holding on to the ex-husband, soon to be. God will provide for her children. She's going to earn her degree, and she's going to be able to have a testimony. She already has a testimony.
And I think that's what is really important here. We need to recognize that through the trials and tribulations that we experience, a testimony is coming out of our successes. God wants us to share our testimony in every possible way so that other people who may be going through some of the experiences that you're going through can benefit. They can find out and recognize that God will pull them through if they open their heart. If they say, okay, God, you take over, because everything that I've done has not worked. You know, that's a powerful thing. Everything that I've done has not worked, so I need you to take over now.
You have to keep your eyes on Christ. You have to listen and watch for the signals that God sends us through His Word. And you can't do it. Let me tell you something. You have to study your Word every day. No matter what you're going through, no money, don't know how you're going to pay your bills, don't know where it's coming from. If you stay faithful to God, He is faithful to you. He sends us tests to see whether or not we're going to trust Him or we're going to doubt Him.
Another thing is you have to be able to listen to God.
Listen to God.
That's really paramount. And we tend not to listen because we get trapped in our own personal self-gratification. And we say, well, this is how I want it to be. This is what I need to do. But you can't turn your back on the Lord and not hear what He's saying to you, not be observant of the signals that He's sending to you. That's mandatory. You know, even the hamburger that's being found in the
we're gonna leave that
the Lord said, you know, this man is not clean. This man is not somebody that I would want you to have, and that's important.
And you got to be able to recognize when it's time to walk away.
The one thing, the most important thing that I can say is to seek the Lord first before anything else, before all others and all other things. Because if you don't, you can think that you know your Bible. You can think, oh, I was raised in the church, I know what to do, but you don't. And to say, I didn't see it coming, you would have seen it coming had you asked God and listened to Him.
There you go. Now, you're not in any relationships now?
No.
Okay.
I'm not, and I don't plan on it unless, you know, until I have gotten close enough to the Lord and He feels that I'm ready for a relationship. If He sends a husband and another father for my children, then I thank Him for it. But if He's the only father that my children have, I can accept that and be thankful for that as well.
We appreciate you being so transparent. You know, you had so much energy inside of you, and we needed to hear how God turned this around for you, and God turned it around. Well, listen, we hope that you have gained something, because I truly have, to keep my eyes and stay focused on the Lord. What about you, Arthur?
His eyes are on the sparrow.
Oh, and I know He watches over me. I'm telling you, if He can take care of the sparrow,
He can take care of you.
I'm about to preach.
Okay.
I'm about to preach. He can take it. All right, but I'm not going to preach. But listen, praise the Lord.
All right.
I'm Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin.
I'm Arthur Nolan.
And thank you for watching another program
Yes.
of Making It Work. God bless you.
God bless.